Bitcoin improvement proposal that
Ugh.
no one cared about and everyone knew was going to be meaningless. And it finally came to a head this week. Spoiler alert, it died on arrival.
The cold card exploit was dumb. It was so dumb. Thus far, for the first half of 2026, there have been over $30 million stolen via violence. The full quote is, Bitcoin doesn't need clarity. America needs clarity.
We are back with another episode of The Weekly. I'm Graham Stone, joined as usual by David Sensel. This week, we're going to get into the Bitcoin improvement proposal that no one cared about and everyone knew was going to be meaningless. And it finally came to a head this week. Spoiler alert, it died on arrival. So we're going to get into the weeds on what it means for Bitcoin governments. I do believe there are some interesting conversations to be had there. Plus, we've got the latest on the cold card attack, including the chances of any stolen Bitcoin getting recovered, and the emergence of the Bitcoin Red Team, which is a group that has taken it upon themselves to harden the security of Bitcoin projects in the AI era. We'll also have an update for you on the growing wrench attack phenomenon, that on the back of a new report that's come out. And for symmetry, we're going to end this week's episode with another dead on arrival initiative, and that is the Clarity Act. All right, so let's get into it. Starting off with BIP 110. Formerly, this is the Reduced Data Temporary Soft Fork, and it was a proposal to temporarily tighten Bitcoin's consensus rules for 1 year to make it much harder to store arbitrary data on chain. So why did people want to make it hard to store arbitrary data on chain? Well, the argument was that things like inscriptions were basically spam, and limiting large data pushes, restoring an 83 byte limit on op return outputs, and restricting several taproot and witness mechanisms that could be used for data storage. They'd be able to reduce blockchain bloat, lower the burden on node operators, and refocus Bitcoin on being money. Critics, however, saw this as an attempt to restrict valid uses of block space and impose one group's view on what Bitcoin should be used for.
Yeah, also, it should be noted that I think the biggest problem with this proposal is it's a cat and mouse game, Graham. And even after this, so after this proposal was released, but before it was even implemented, there were already ways to circumvent this and put spam on a BIP 110 enabled Bitcoin. So it didn't even work, right? Like it completely was meaningless.
This was one of the major criticisms of the BIP from the start, that it wouldn't even be able to stop the thing that it was purporting to be able to stop.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw Casey Rodamer, who's the inscriptions guy. I saw a post from him a week or so ago, and he said, yeah, I've already figured out a way to get around this if it actually does become the consensus.
And
so
the game theory was there would always be a way around this, right? You'd have to impose such draconian limits on the chain to even kind of dent this in any way. There would always be workarounds, and so you just have to kind of accept that. And I think that was kind of the fatal flaw. Whether you philosophically agree with it or not, it just is kind of an unworkable
technically
idea.
Work.
Yeah.
So this all came to a head in the last few days. There was at a certain block height, there was a mandatory signaling process, and then you had to lock in by the next block height, and then at the final block height, the activation, this is where the new limits would actually apply. So what happened was, in the lead up to this, certain key opinion leaders closed ranks, I guess. So Saylor came in on August 4th, and he said he noted of nodes were signaling for this change. Now, it was supposed to be up to 55%, I believe, was the threshold.
Yeah, 55% was the threshold.
But it was people were only signaling, only 2.7% of the network is actually signaling that they wanted this. And then some other KOLs, Adam Back and Jameson Lopp, piled on, noting some technical issues with it. And as we got closer to the date, August 6th and 7th, the run up to it, Dathan Ohm escalated, and he told users to abandon Bitcoin Core. for knots, and he was warning miners that their blocks would be discarded. But the signaling rate didn't move. It actually slipped from that earlier 2.7 to like 2.6%. So and then we started to get into just like a smaller and smaller number of blocks left in the signaling period. And meanwhile, this is kind of funny. Mara,
this is my favorite. This is my favorite part.
Yeah. One of the bigger miners trolled the anti-spam crowd by mining a pretty much empty block containing a Pepe inscription.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool looking Pepe as far as that thing goes.
Yeah. All right. August 8th. What happened then?
All right. So you're getting closer to the or you get to the block height where mandatory signaling is supposed to happen. Right. It's like we're at 961,632, and the final period tally for signaling was at 2.53%. Right. So Antpool mined a non-signaling version. Nodes rejected BIP 1110, and basically only Ocean and this other group called the Roughnecks were the miners who actually had committed to this. So basically, by that time, you knew nothing was going to happen. The whole thing had been kind of a fugazi, I would say. And the big story at this particular point was that as this split was about to land, there was a difficulty adjustment. Right. So how much hash rate does it take to find a block? And this difficulty adjustment was kind of important because it meant that, let's say that you do you have a split. Well, the BIP 110 compliance split side of that split would have to then wait for the next Bitcoin difficulty adjustment, which would be at its maximum time length before that they could downgrade their adjustment to mine blocks. You could imagine this is about as unideal as possible, because let's say the difficulty adjustment was like, I don't know, 1 day later or 8 hours later. Well, then the new split could very quickly have a much reduced amount of hash to find blocks. Instead, this kind of made it maximum pain for any
So
minority chain.
The split would. The minority chain would presumably have much less hash power, and they would be forced to mine at that like max difficulty level until the next proposed change, which with their reduced hash power relative to what like Bitcoin, the entire network has, would have taken, I think someone was reporting like 100 days.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't
they'd
know.
be stuck there for 100 days. Yeah.
I don't know if they could have planned this out better. It makes me wonder, like, if they weren't thinking about this, the NOTS people, the BIP 110 proposal people, because it just seems, if it's just coincidence, it's really, really, really bad timing for them. Anyway, so the split happens. We get a soft fork. This is like the first soft fork in years. Ocean, pretty much this mining conglomerate, they pretty much abandoned it immediately. And Roughnecks, I would say these are kind of the hardcore supporters. They were able to find the next block, 96163, right? So they weren't able to do anything. So the first 59 blocks on the dominant chain did not carry the BIP 110 kind of signal, and this kind of difference between the minority chain and the majority chain just increased as the minority chain was not able to find a block, and the majority chain just kept finding more and more blocks. By August 9th, the difference was 111 blocks, and all of those blocks on the majority chain had zero signaling for BIP 1.4. So I think it's like roughly 8 to 10 hours later, Roughnecks gave up. They quit. They stopped mining under its name, and they told everybody else to halt efforts under the current proof of work framing.
Yeah. David, I think there are two angles to discuss here. One is, did Bitcoin's governance model work as intended here? And the other is BIP 110 dead, or the broader idea of trying to eliminate the potential for spam on the Bitcoin network, is that now abandoned?
Yeah. I personally think that Bitcoin governance as it is did work as intended. Messy, slow, contentious. This is how it should work.
Yeah.
Now we could get into whether
developers proposed rules yeah, developers proposed rules. People could run them. Miners could signal for them, and they just chose not to.
Yeah, individual nodes had their say. The centralized exchanges and big holders of the coins, they also made their, and Sailor, Coinbase, these kinds of people.
Yeah,
they
KOLs
all
weighed in.
Yeah, they all weighed in. So you had the classic, like, different important parties in the ecosystem all having their ability to influence everyone else. And if you're like active in Bitcoin and crypto, you're on X in your timeline, it was quite clear for months and months and months that this was not going to happen. Like you said at the opening, every person that I follow, every significant voice has been telling me that this is at best just kind of like popcorn entertainment, because it was not going to happen. And the consensus was there amongst all these different parties for a long time. So again, I think the correct outcome happened in terms of a governance, from a governance perspective. All the various parties in this process didn't want this to happen, and in the end, it didn't happen. That's kind of what you would want, right?
Yeah, I mean, a minority was enabled to enforce their rules, despite the majority signaling against them. But they quickly the economic reality quickly closed in around them, and they realized, well, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I would say, I think that this process probably is a little too it's a little too difficult, right? Just because I'm looking ahead at things like doing something about quantum and this kind of stuff. You probably want it to be a little more agile at this point still.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of a separate issue. But as far as how this all played out, yeah, pretty fascinating and cool to see. It's the first time basically since the 2017 block wars and the aftermath of that we've seen these kinds of movements, I would say.
Yeah. So is BIP 110 actually dead? Well, this specific soft fork activation, yes, it appears to be dead, but I don't think the underlying dispute is dead. There are still raging arguments over, inscriptions, arbitrary data, spam, and I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if like a new version of this pops up in the not too distant future.
The most interesting part of this whole debate for me is less to do with the kind of the spam or the CSAM stuff, which I think is just stupid. I really don't think you can have like a decentralized, credibly neutral network and then also police that. I just don't think it works without like a centralized authority that can constantly update the rules in a cat and mouse game, But the fact that they point to things like making Bitcoin more money-like using it as a medium of exchange, I still do find kind of interesting because of the security budget considerations and because of the fact that the Bitcoin network isn't really used for anything other than this stuff, right? Like the block space is relatively empty, right? So, yeah, it would be great. It would be great for Bitcoin to be more usable as money, I guess. I mean, if you're like a diehard Bitcoiner, isn't that what you would want? I guess. I mean, I don't know. But that aspect of it, I think, is pretty interesting, and I wonder if some Bitcoiners haven't given up on that, right? Because all we talk about now, Graham, and all we've talked about for at least this past kind of bull run from 23 to, let's say, 2023 to 2025 was, no, you see, Bitcoin is a store of value. It is a store. It's digital, medium of exchange. No. It was, whatever. It's a store of value. But that was kind of in the block wars. That was kind of the impetus of the block wars. We want to use this for money. We want people to transact on the network. So I personally would like that side of the debate to kind of take the spotlight. And I hope it does, because I think you could see some interesting things. The last meaningful thing in that debate has been Lightning, which I really think has not been successful. So, I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, the framing is right, I think. Whether Bitcoin is best at this stage thought of as a store of value or whether it really is important, as many, advocates of Bitcoin have been saying for years, that we need to focus on using it. That's the only way for the network to really grow. I see both sides of that. Like I actually very sympathetic to the idea that, yeah, well, I mean, why would I ever want to spend my Bitcoin? It's just going up. I'll spend my less valuable currency units for my everyday things and store my Bitcoin, save my Bitcoin for later. That's how I think about it. I think that's how most people think about it. But, I am sympathetic to the idea that, yeah, if it was used more in everyday transactions, then its mind share and network effect would grow much faster. So
uncensorable money, Graham, right?
yeah,
Uncensorable money. Bitcoiners and some other cypherpunks that I pay attention to, they do kind of lament the fact that pretty much if you transact on a blockchain, right? If you use money, medium of exchange on a blockchain, it's in stable coins, right? That's and stable coins, all stable coins, well, 99.9% of stable coins are all just centralized wrapped versions of fiat. So
yeah,
very censorable, very censorable.
yeah,
And so
sensible, yeah.
it's kind of, again, I love stable coins, but I do pine for a uncensorable medium of exchange on blockchain.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, Graham. Call me a psychopath, but I am still passionate about the idea that a blockchain can provide an uncensorable money. I know it's a crazy idea, but just bear with me. Yeah. So thus far, it's not there, though.
All right. So let's move on to the cold card incident and Bitcoin security in general. So the fallout from the cold card hack was ongoing last week. Everyone in the industry still reeling from this. Total losses estimated by Galaxy Research at, I think, 1,800 BTC, north of $100 million. I believe it's like $117 million is the latest figure I saw. Some people have started exploring whether anyone will actually get their money back. Willy Woo puts it at a 20 to 40% chance of partial recovery by authorities over a multi-year horizon. His reasoning there is related to other hacks, Bitfinex, Polynetwork, Euler, KuCoin, Mt. Gox. People did eventually get their money back, but yeah, oh well, they got some portion of it and it took a long time.
Yeah. I think one of the things that makes this more likely is it seems thus far that the DRPK, the North Koreans, are not behind this. So hopefully just your run-of-the-mill criminal somewhere in a country that can be touched by law enforcement. So to me, that does seem like it increases the chances of getting it. If it was DRPK, I'd put that at like near zero.
Yeah.
So,
and if you are a victim of the cold card attack, don't rage destroy your cold card or seed just yet, since your stolen funds could hit an exchange and get frozen, and you need to prove ownership. So that could be useful down the road.
Also, apparently, people have been putting up their hacked cold cards on eBay or selling them to researchers or things of that nature. And the advice now is do not do that for the same reasons that you just said, Graham. Having possession of the physical thing will help in a potential dispute down the road where you need to prove that even though two people or multiple parties have access to the private keys, the fact that you have the actual physical device will tip the scales in your favor in determining who the original owner is. So delist.
This actually goes to
take those eBay. Yeah, take those eBay auctions off now and keep your old broken hardware wallet.
Yeah. Perhaps going into a little bit more detail, emerging about who actually got hacked. 25% of attributable losses are in Canada, which isn't surprising since CoinKite is a Canadian company. And then Australia was number 2, 15 to 20%, US and Thailand. So Thailand was an outlier here as well in terms
Very
of
strange.
people. Yeah. Well, I don't think so. I don't think strange, because a lot of crypto wealthy people have migrated to places like Thailand.
Those digital nomads, all in Thailand. Yeah. One-shotted digital nomads.
Okay, so one thing that's come out of this, well, okay, there's another exploit as well. There's BTC Pay, which is a BTC Pay server, which is an open source, self-hosted cryptocurrency payment processor, announced a few days ago that it is also facing an ongoing attack by unknown threat actors, and it affects BTC Pay server's code base. It's it said that, quote, there is a critical vulnerability being actively exploited on BTC Pay server, which can result in the loss of funds. And they asked people to update their BTC Pay server to 4.2.4, and they provided some instructions for how to do that. BTC Pay server, this is related to Lightning, the Lightning Network, I believe.
I don't know much about BTC Pay. I saw that they were undergoing an attack.
Yeah.
Just a little color on that. Again, some of the people that I follow, like Predator, but others as well, they all noted the difference in communication between CoinKite and BTC Pay. If you want to know how to do it well, look at BTC Pay's X communications and from their employees as well. And if you want to know how to do it very, very, very poorly, look at CoinKite's. So
don't wait 30 hours. Don't deny half the things. Don't say it's all right. So don't worry about it.
Also, show your remorse and your embarrassment and your sorrow, right? Like, apparently some of the employees connected to this were like, "Oh my God, this is terrible. Oh, I'm so sorry. What have we done? My heart goes out to everybody. Oh, we're doing everything we can. Look, just please." Versus CoinKite, I think they missed. Anyway, I don't want to say. So yeah.
All right. So in the face of these attacks, we've had the emergence of something called the Bitcoin Red Team. So it's a volunteer security group.
Silver Lining, Graham.
Silver Lining. They've gathered some AI resources. They got like $40,000 in funding from OpenSats, which is a nonprofit that backs open source Bitcoin development. And they got a bunch of volunteers with development experience who know how to look into code bases. And they pointed all this power at 390 open source Bitcoin projects over a 48-hour period after the cold card attack. They found 4,962 vulnerabilities. Most of the 390 projects reviewed had few or no critical issues, so that's important to note. The real danger seemed to be concentrated in a few smaller, in a small set of tools that handled private key generation. So similar to exactly what happened with cold card. So that seems to be not necessarily just a cold card issue.
Yeah. This kind of thing is scary, but it's also really good that the community is doing this finally. Yeah. And again, there were a bunch of stories last week that were coming out.
The safest and easiest to use Bitcoin wallet. Send and receive Bitcoin and crypto to anyone, anywhere in the world without permission. Now, the best Bitcoin wallet for all your favorite assets. Buy as little as $50 of Bitcoin or anything else. Earn Bitcoin by staking. Access Web3 and DeFi. And now introducing in-app rewards, letting you earn free crypto just for using the app. Join the millions who are already in. Install now for free.
We saw them about how much money was needed in compute to find the cold card exploit. It's roughly $2 in inference costs on GLM 5.2. I think it was like $15 in Fable, something like that, Fable 5. So again, pretty low cost in that. The problem is when you want to kind of just look at everything in a whole ecosystem, those costs can add up, and you're gonna have to start seeing this across. Go ahead.
No, if you tried to use Fable on it, it wouldn't have done it because it would have said, true. "Well, I'm not allowed to look into this." Yeah. So you would have had to use an open source version anyway. So
maybe it was like $20 in like Kimi K3 or something equivalent. But yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but I'm glad that this group is doing this for Bitcoin. I hope to get more money, right? Like I hope.
Yeah.
And we covered this a couple of weeks ago, I believe. Was it Bitcoin Security Consortium, right? With Strategy and Coinbase and a couple other people with a lot of money. They got 15 mil. They started with 15 million. They said that their initial focus is on quantum. I hope in light of this cold card stuff for the past 2 weeks that they divert some of that right now to this kind of I would say, ongoing security hardening, checking. That is to say, every new model release, they spend another 100,000, 200,000 million to run it across the ecosystem, right? Because that's basically what you have to do. You're going to have to do for the next, I don't know, however much time as the models continually get better. And at some point, you'll be able to stop. But yeah, and so
I think so.
Again,
I think that point is actually not very far away, the point where you'll be able to stop, because the exploits that have been found are like actually just quite simple. And it's just like,
true.
It's just a fact that nobody really looked into it, because who looks into code? Like it takes a lot of work to look into it. But if you can just point an AI at it, you can find it's low hanging fruit. And
like you said,
patched up pretty quickly. Pretty easy.
And the cold card exploit was dumb. It was so dumb.
You didn't need a cutting edge frontier intelligence to find that, but you did need somebody with patience, and like humans aren't really that. I don't know. An AI is perfect for looking into these types of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're probably right, but I still think for like the next 2-3 model releases, it probably pays. It's probably worth it just to spend the money and get the peace of mind. But yeah.
All right. So moving from digital attacks to IRL attacks, also known as the $2 wrench attack.
IRL.
We've got a new study released from Chainalysis that has some new data on where we are at. The state of wrench attacks 2026. David, do you want to take us through some of the numbers?
Yeah. So obviously very, very worried about wrench attacks. We talk about it a lot. I write about it a lot in my newsletter. I'd just like to shout out that last week I interviewed a lady, a doctor who has specialized, who has done some of her work with, I think, Cambridge Cyber Crime Center or something like that. Dr. Marilyn Ordicane. I hope I didn't butcher that name, ma'am. I'm sorry. A fascinating lady. That interview should be coming out next week. So definitely top of mind, wrench attacks. This particular study released a bunch of numbers that were sobering. So let's just go over some of these things. Thus far, for the first half of 2026, there have been over $30 million stolen via violence. At this pace, it's on pace to break 2025's record of 58 million, and we are only in August. So it looks like it's gonna happen. Of the places, new record. Of the places of the countries where this is happening, France logged 30 public incidents through mid-2026. This is up from 19 in all of 2025. Now, I would, again, speaking with a doctor last week, this is mostly violent crimes, right? The nonviolent crimes often don't get reported to the police at all. And even if they do get reported to the police, they're not picked up by the mass media because they're just not sexy or interesting. Things like, I think the number one like wrench attack basically is a burglary. They break into somebody's home when they're not there. Yeah. And they steal they steal their stuff. So anyway, these are, again, violent ones. So again, they have a lot more weight because you're going in and you're physically accosting, torturing somebody. Yeah. The Interior Minister of France has documented a 70, and the rate curve under one attack a month before 2025, 1.9 a month in 2025, and 4.6 a month in the first half of 2026. So you're seeing it go up pretty precipitously.
The criminals have caught on.
So weirdly, though, a stat worth kind of focusing on is only 26% of attempts have produced a payout through late June. This is down from 49% in 2025 and 67% in 2024. This is probably because attacks are more numerous now. And so the attacks in 2024 and then in 2025 were more targeted. People were focused on the attackers were focused on people that they knew had the crypto, and they knew that they had physical access to it. And so now it's becoming more, because it's more popular, it's probably just more opportunistic. I mean, it's still planned mostly, but it's more opportunistic in terms of like, well, I know this person might have crypto. I'm going to attack them. And
Yeah, it might also be that the holders of crypto have sort of upgraded their self-custody
well,
model.
I think probably they don't have self-custody anymore. Would be my
Or they
guess.
just don't have exactly.
Right?
So-
They get
Yeah.
attacked, and they're like,
or they don't have a self-custody that is susceptible to attack.
yeah,
So
yeah.
they've got,
like
multi-sigs across
Yeah.
different regions or whatever.
like I don't have any Bitcoin that's self-custody anymore because I talk on this thing, iBit baby. So ETFs all the way, right? So I mean, I think anyone who has that kind of obvious, if you obviously are a owner of crypto, I think you would be pretty insane to have a majority of your stuff in self-custody. So anyway, let's see. Home invasions rose from 26% of incidents in 2023 to 37%. Kidnappings from 39% to 52%. That's the scary one. And the scariest one, attackers increasingly target family members. Over 40% of cases in France were targeting family members. This is my new soapbox for 2026. I all through 2025, I wrote about this at least once a month in the newsletter saying, increase your physical security, be aware that you're a target. Now in 2026, I've been beating this drum. You need to, if you own crypto and you own it publicly, you need to speak with your family, right? And they need to be more cognizant of their physical security because of you. So again, you need to, people out there, be aware of this, right? Attackers are targeting family members who are less careful than you are now. You need to make sure that this is not the case for your family members anymore. Okay, little public PSA. All right, so there have been 200 arrests and 88 indictments, and 93% of French victims with known residency were locals. So again, this is all pretty much downstream, probably, of the data leak from the France tax authority, where I guess an insider sold a bunch of tax data that had people with crypto earnings disclosed, and obviously their home address. Terrible, 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 scary. What are you going to do? So this is probably from that, right? Because they knew where they were.
It's just one of the gravest violations you could imagine of your government. You have to pay taxes. If you don't, you go to jail. If you do, the government might sell your information that ends up with you or your family getting kidnapped.
Yeah, man. It's not funny. It's scary. It's outrageous. It is like it's kind of an untenable situation. I spoke with the doctor briefly on this last week, and she is actively pushing for how governments store this information, because they're not taking this seriously, right? And the way that they're storing it is unacceptable. The other issue, though, Graham, is apparently centralized crypto exchanges are also, not all of them, but maybe many of them, are not storing this data in a secure enough way. And there have been data leaks from centralized exchanges, and this is also a thing that you do not want. You do not want some crappy centralized exchange that is storing the data in like some plain text file to be stolen, and then they absolutely know if you have self-custody crypto, right? And they know your address.
It's almost like we need clarity, David. Let's talk about our last story for the week, which is
the segue.
The Clarity Act basically dying for now.
Mm-hmm.
So the silver lining here, of course, is that we don't have to talk about it for at least a few weeks.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
So let's go with, I think we should go through this pretty quickly.
Okay.
I doubt too many people care about the things like cloture or whatever that is.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. So last week was the deadline. So last Friday was the deadline for Clarity to get a vote before the summer recess. The summer recess is really, really important because most pundits that I listen to, they say that if it didn't get a vote before the summer recess, the likelihood that it would get a vote or get passed goes down dramatically because of its proximity and focus on the midterm elections in America, which are in November. Midterm elections right now are the favorable odds for Democrats taking at least one house of Congress are incredibly high. So that would pretty much spell the end of clarity for the remainder of President Trump's presidency. So basically, last Friday was very, very important. It didn't happen. So on Monday, there was no schedule for a clarity vote, which had to have been before Friday. Still, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican from South Dakota, was saying, it's going to happen. I'm going to make senators go on record to pass it. By Tuesday evening, Thune had not filed a cloture. The only thing you need to know about this is that you basically need to signal and file for cloture in order to. It takes a couple days for then some procedural thing to work out so you could have a vote. So the fact that he didn't file it by Tuesday meant that it was done. That was it. So by Tuesday night, we knew that this wasn't going to happen, basically. And so everybody kind of knew by then that there was not going to be a vote, but apparently everyone was pretending that there still was a possibility of a vote.
Politics,
but yeah. Apparently, like the way Congress works, Tuesday night, no cloture, wasn't going to happen. Anyway, people kept pretending on Wednesday. Oh, maybe this is going to happen. Democrats are holding everything up. Republicans, no, we're going to do this. We're at the 1 yard line. By Wednesday, it had become basically official. There was no way to have this go forward. The Democrats were still saying that the ethics was an issue, and Republicans started to defect from this. And so Thursday admitted that the Democrats insisted on a no vote, and that we're gonna aim for the first thing in September after the recess. And by Friday, Thune had signaled he'd filed for a cloture 4 days too late. So that means that there is going to be a vote, apparently, and the vote is set to happen at 2:15 p.m. on September 15th. So there we have it. We have a vote now, 2:15 September 15th. The markets did not like this. By Sunday, prediction markets have gone down from, at the start of the week, 27% to 21% passage for this year. Galaxy cut its own estimate from 50% to 30%, and Grayscale put out a note saying that the odds this year are low, and the industry should plan on the SEC filling the gaps instead. I personally think that is not going to happen. I think now that it's been punted into September and all of the kind of the political focus moving towards the midterms, it just makes this it doesn't have the attention that it needs, and Democrats have the leverage with their impending victory or predicted victory that they don't need this. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay. So does it really mean anything? I mean, Michael Saylor has said Bitcoin doesn't need clarity. I think the consensus is that this is more about a crypto. This is more of a crypto bill. He said, sort of keeping America at the forefront of financial technology.
The full quote is, Bitcoin doesn't need Bitcoin doesn't need clarity. America needs clarity.
Right.
So,
So I think that, essentially my summary.
Yeah.
I think.
Except in a shorter, more witty, quote. But
arguably.
Yeah. I mean, dude, so you're a Canadian. You're a dirty Canadian. Cold card creator, Canadian. Doesn't matter for you, I guess. But I'm an American. And I think clarity would be great. And it does suck that it's going to make it harder for institutions and people and companies, big companies that really rely on firm precedents, rules before they.
Yeah. So this is interesting because it seems like it not passing actually is kind of bullish for the small upstarts.
Yes.
So arguably that's a good thing for, like, do we really want the banks to be the big benefactors here?
Well,
I think that the real sort of negative is, I guess, declining dominance of the U.S. financial system.
Well, that's not happening
because they can't get their act together and like pass these basic rules, so that it'll make it more difficult for them to like push stable coins all around the world, perhaps. And I don't know, that might end up being like, I'm not sure what the permutations are for that, but I don't think it like as it relates to Bitcoin. More chaos in the like less ability for the Western financial system to like paper over the cracks here for the next several years. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for Bitcoin?
Well, okay, let me give you. So there was a post last week that was going around about how Russia, I think it was Russia. They passed their own Clarity Act, right? And so this happened on August 6th. Russia passed its Clarity Act, and everybody, a lot of people on the timeline were going like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it! You see how messed up America is? Russia passed its own Clarity Act. We're so far behind." And here was my response. Let me just read to you what my response was, because there's lots of things like this had been happening over the past couple of years. And here's my response. I used to think this kind of thing mattered, but after traveling to many countries for conferences, I've realized it matters far less when smaller, less financially impactful jurisdictions pass legislation. I congratulated one 9 to 10 figure business magnate that his country passed crypto regulation well before America. This is in like 2020, 2023, 2024. He said, and this is a loose paraphrase, "Yeah, it's good, but who cares? We're all waiting for the SEC and your legislatures to get their heads out of their asses. You are slowing everything down." That is to say, this is a person from another country who had like a Clarity kind of thing, and they're like a 100 or 100 millionaire or a billionaire, and they're like, it doesn't matter if my little country passes this,
because once your behemoth passes your thing, it'll override whatever like attempts my country had.
Well, not only that, it's like I want to put my money in your markets, and everything is slowed down because I can't. So it's like, you're losing me money. You're preventing me from making money because you're slow. So he was visibly upset actually when he started talking. It's like do something, hurry up. This is really annoying. And that's what I think for this kind of thing is like, yeah, fine, Russia passed it, so we're gonna move billions of dollars into Russia's financial system. But get out of here, man. Come on. So yeah. It basically though, the other way of looking at this is Clarity just slows down everyone all over the world. So it's just kind of like a little bit of an annoying speed bump. Right? Because you're just like, okay. Yeah, it'll help the small
Just give
players.
us clarity.
Yeah, it'll help the small players.
Just give us the rules of the road.
Yeah, exactly. But like your giant super mega banks all over the world, they're going to kind of just be slowly moving in,
Yeah. Okay, so it does slow down the adoption of crypto and potentially Bitcoin. All right, let's wrap it up there, David. Thank you for another week of insights. And we'll be back later in the week for Token Narratives. Be sure to check it out. And as always, be sure to subscribe to the Bitcoin.com newsletter written by David. It is a wealth of information.
Pregnant pause there.
Extremely well written, full of alpha. Subscribe to that. Start your week up. Yeah. Get that in, make that part of your life. All right. That's it for us. Have a great week.